one of the greatest coaches of all time be denied win number 1,000 tonight in Toronto. Lowry in the lane finds James Johnson, the three. You gotta believe from the Calumet. The three, 84-82.
Welcome to Raptors Weekly for the week of January the 9th. The Raptors have beaten the Spurs, defending champs, at home. Andrew, that was a good game to watch.
It was fun, which has not always been the case in the last couple months for the Raptors to watch, but they played a really good team, and they were fantastic.
Let's start the pod off with a bit of facts. We were just discussing offline what James Johnson's neck tattoo says, and it says
Naaman, which is apparently the name of his firstborn son, or his 10-month-old son. I'm not sure if it's his firstborn or not, but Naymin.
Yeah.
I spent large portions of the game tonight staring at it, trying to figure out what it said. We were speculating perhaps mayhem. It was unclear, but no, different direction.
Yeah, Naaman. It's deep, a little deep.
Yeah, the more you know.
So he started tonight. This was after calls for him to start were happening over the last, couple of months maybe.
Yeah.
And tonight, Dwane Casey finally pulled the trigger, and the results, to us at least, were not surprising. No. Should we have been surprised that James Johnson played so well? Like, hasn't he shown all year that he's exactly this type of player that if you put him into a lineup that's been struggling, he's going to bring the grit, bring the energy, do the right things on the court. So when he was doing his thing in the first quarter and in the fourth quarter, and he hit that huge three that put the Raptors ahead, I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's what I expect.
Yeah, especially coming off the Clipper game a couple nights ago where he was phenomenal. Even just looking back to Memphis when they picked him up last year, and he really came in and played very well for them for the most part. This is who he's been whenever he's got a chance to get some run, and it's pretty great.
So let's check his line out right now. James Johnson, 8 for 10 shooting, 20 points, 4 rebounds, some great defense, and again, the shot selection is once again tremendous. I don't recall this guy taking a bad shot all year, and just the gloriness continues.
Which is a big improvement. When we had him around the first time, he would show signs of this, but he really enjoyed just putting the ball up towards the hoop whenever he could in his previous turn in Toronto.
Yeah, and the other guy having a big game tonight is Jonas Valanciunas. A huge defensive game today in that third quarter. He had a couple of blocks on Tim Duncan. I think he had 4 blocks in total. He was only took 7 shots, 3 of 7, but pulled on 16 rebounds. And at one point in the third quarter, got really frustrated when a couple of calls didn't go his way. And usually he may have sulked in the past or gotten out of the game, but Dwane Casey kind of stuck with him, and he paid back the faith.
Yeah, Valanciunas did a full-on DeMarcus Cousins impression, turning during the middle of a play after clearly getting fouled and not getting the call, and just yelling at the ref and flexing and walking towards him instead of paying attention to the play was going on. But we've talked about it before. When he's emotionally involved in the game, he's a totally different player.
Yeah, we've always talked about him needing to just play the game and not overthink things. And I think once he gets a little mad, he stops to like analyze the game too much and just plays the way he knows how to play. And that's what happened once he got angry. Once the emotional sweat came out, that's when you saw him just like go all Lithuania on people.
Yeah, we need more anger, less pretend pump fakes.
Yeah, and those pump fakes are getting really hard to watch because even when he makes them now, even he knows that nobody's going to buy them, but it's just almost become like a routine where he can only drive once he makes that pump fake.
I feel like anytime someone actually jumps at that pump fake, it's like everyone needs to shotgun a beer or something. Like that's got to be one of the more embarrassing things in the NBA to do is to jump at a Jonas Valanciunas pump fake.
Yeah.
Which not to disparage his game. He can drop 18 to 20 points on you, but that pump fake is so bad.
I don't think it's worked in the last month and a half. I think I saw it work against the Bulls maybe in Chicago the last time he played him.
Every time it works. It shouldn't work. Like that's why it's embarrassing when it happens. Like it looks more like he's doing some sort of weird dance routine than it is actually him going for a shot. Like he doesn't actually bend like that when he shoots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lithuanian shuffle.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But little hidden gem. Nice thing that happens when Valanciunas and James Johnson both get a lot of runs. No minutes for Tyler Hansbrough in the second half.
Is that a good thing?
I think that's a pretty good thing, especially defensively and offensively. You know, it really helps out at both ends of the court.
Yeah.
And since special teams isn't really a part of basketball, it's kind of helpful.
Yeah, Tyler Hansbrough plays like his hands are always in fists.
Yeah, the walking personal foul, Tyler Hansbrough. People always come to his defense in the comment section. You know what? Come at me, haters. Come at me.
We got to talk about the two games were glorious. Don't get me wrong, the Clippers and the Spurs. But how does a team that beats two of the top teams in the West lose to Brooklyn and who else would we lose to there?
Milwaukee.
Yeah. How does? Can you put a opinion on that?
Sure. Milwaukee's a lot better than people realize. They're really long. They're really disciplined defensively. They move around quickly. And the Raptors just got a little disengaged. And the starters, I don't think any of them played over 24 minutes in that game. So the Milwaukee game is a little bit more forgivable than people realize, though clearly not a great display. Brooklyn is more difficult to justify. That was a bad showing.
Yeah, especially after the Milwaukee game.
What do you take away from it?
Yeah. I thought, sometimes when a week's in front of you, you kind of look at the schedule and you go, yeah, that's probably going to be a win. That's going to be a win. And those two are going to be tough games. And I think Raptors kind of played down to their competition. And the way the starters came out, it was evident early that they weren't really, focusing the game. Maybe the 4 or 5 night stretch that they had prior to the Milwaukee game finally caught up to them. But I don't really buy that. I mean, these are professional athletes who had a day off and they have it's not like these guys have part-time jobs they have to go to. Like all they do is worry about basketball. And when you got a day's rest, you're playing at home. There's no excuse of coming out slow. So I just think it's playing down to the competition and almost like believing that a win is owed to you because you beat a team twice already this season.
Yeah, the team, Lowry and DeRozan and a few other guys in the team have said as much about that being their problem so far this year, and something that led to that hump that took them forever to get over was this notion of sort of who are we and what we've earned, what we deserve, and that we're better than other people. And that's something you have to go out and prove every night, not just expect to happen. Not to say that they didn't play like doo-doo butter against Brooklyn, but anytime you get beaten because of Jarrett Jack and Allen Anderson dropping jump shots all over you, that's something that probably is not going to go their way in the long run. So it's a little bit – I mean, a big part of Brooklyn's run lately has been those two shooting really well, which is not – I mean, look, high-volume shooters lighting you up in the mid-range, that's something that usually you're willing to live with as a team. So there's that. But like I said, they were trash.
Yeah, and I think the defense got cut open a little too much. I think I had a tweet today on the main account, which I kind of compared Kyle Lowry to a free safety in the NFL, where you're almost given free reign to do whatever you want on defense as long as you think it's a good idea. And we've seen this season that he goes for a lot of steals against Milwaukee and Brooklyn especially. You saw him really wander off from what he's supposed to be doing and get burned by Jack or Anderson. There's one play against New Jersey where Jarrett Jack actually just is surprised that Kyle Lowry is facing the other way and just drives by him for a layup, and I think that's kind of hurting the Raptors.
Yeah, not to speak blasphemy in the church of Lowry, but Lowry's been getting away with some poor defense for longer than just this year. I mean, he's been over gambling on defense for a long time, but like you're getting into there, he seems to be just sort of wandering and freelancing and double teaming pretty well wherever he wants, and sometimes his man might have the ball or the ball is on, he's playing weak side and he starts double teaming someone on the weak side or cheating on the passing lane before the ball is even getting there. And he seems to be just getting himself out of the defensive team structure long before he needs to. And I'm not sure why.
Yeah. It's something I've noticed not just over the last couple of games, but that's been a general trend with the Raptors. But before we move on, we got to give James Johnson more credit because against the Clippers, he came in and after the Clippers were up, I think 37 it was maybe, and Blake Griffin was just killing everybody. They put James Johnson on him, and all of a sudden Blake Griffin gave him the ball in the post, and suddenly he has to pass it off because all the lanes are clogged thanks to James Johnson.
Yeah, James Johnson shut that staph infection down. James Johnson was excited to D up on Chris Paul on a couple switches too. Yeah, it's
in the fourth
this
quarter.
Is a guy who, if he keeps getting run like this, is quickly going to be a big fan favorite with that kind of hardworking, defiant attitude he has that really seems to vibe with the hockey's crazed fan base in Toronto.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's another Raptor that enjoys playing defense as much as James Johnson. He's, as you said, he's one guy who looks forward to shutting people down. I look at the roster. I don't know if there's one guy you would pick and say, that guy, as soon as he comes to the game, he wants to D up people.
Like Lowry still has it in him sometimes, like that the whole bulldog of Bay Street type thing where he just chomps down on someone. That's more like down the stretch. We saw that a lot last year when he decides that he wants to just hound someone. He has it in him, but that's not his game on a night-to-night basis anymore.
Yeah. I don't think we should talk about Brooklyn and Milwaukee at all. I think
Milwaukee.
Yeah, those are we're done with that.
John Henson is really tall. There we go. We covered it.
Done with that. So the Spurs, the best win of the season so far, Andrew?
Ooh. I don't know if this was the best win of the season. I mean, the Clipper game, quarters 3 through 4, or 2, 3 through 4, were much more dominant. The Spurs game, I mean, they're all great games. I'm not sure. I didn't come away thinking that this was our best game of the year. Is that what you walked away from it with?
I thought, again, I mean, we talked about it on the last pod, is that whenever a game is close against a really, really good team and you pull it off, it's always impressive. And against the defending champs, even more so. Against this wasn't just a win. This wasn't just a win for the Raptors. It was a win for the Raptors against San Antonio's perfect execution down the stretch. And despite being out-rebounded on the boards, they managed to pull it off in a close game. So that's always impressive. Like, this is a win that you might actually build upon, whereas some of the other ones have been almost kind of routine. Even the Clipper game was, they beat the Clippers, but the Clippers had gotten hammered the night before in Cleveland, I think it was. But San Antonio has won, 6 straight, and they finally snapped their streak. So this is something that, would give us some momentum going into Washington, Atlanta, Houston.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely a big win.
So you disagree with that one, eh?
I hadn't considered the thought. I don't think I'm ready to jump to that conclusion if it was their best win of the season. I'm trying to think of one that might be better.
You can't.
The win in Los Angeles was good. The Memphis win early on in the season was really, really impressive.
While Andrew tries to think of
right. I'm struggling to think of something that I feel better about pointing to. Or without saying something like the 40-point margin of victory that we had at one point over Philadelphia, which is not really something that should count.
I think it was Milwaukee.
Was it? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Can I take a break now?
No. We should move on from me just racking my brain without answers.
All right, then. Let's take a break and come back. Welcome back to part 2. The halftime coach interview. So you enjoy Tom Sterner?
Tom Sterner is a person who is on TV. That's the extent. I don't really get into these things. I don't pay the full attention to them because there's not a lot said. What about you?
I like the halftime coach interview. I think it gives you a glimpse on what the coach might be thinking at halftime, or what kind of speech he must have given his team. Because it's the assistant coach they're interviewing mostly, and usually he says some generic stuff. But I think you still get a sense of what the atmosphere in the locker room was, or what the focus points in the locker room were, because that's what the assistant coach will end up talking about, because that's what he was in there for. So I get a glimpse of, for example, against the Spurs game, they talked about what was it? Scrambling. Yeah, they talked about who will win the defensive scrambles will win the game. And sure enough, on that second last possession with the offensive rebound, 50-50 balls everywhere, James Johnson gets it. And that's what kind of decides the game. I know it doesn't really say a lot, but I do think over the course of a season, that halftime interview gives you a glimpse of what the coach might be thinking. You don't agree with that?
I agree that it seems less interesting to see the assistant coach out there. Your attention is not as naturally drawn to it as it might otherwise be when you see Popovich up there, even though Popovich says some hilarious things in halftime interviews, but never anything that's actually relevant to the game that's happening. I think the assistant coach is a more interesting route to go, just because, like you said, there are more times you get actual insight, or they'll maybe be willing to talk about something or play things a little further off from the chest, because instead of the coach who's just wanting to always not give anything away and, sort of resents the fact that he's not able to focus on what he's doing right now while he's giving this interview, and he doesn't want to give up any kind of possible competitive advantage. The assistant coach might actually be a little bit happier that he has a chance to talk to the media, that he's on TV, wanting to show like he's a big part of what's going on, or just not quite as intense about it. So I think you do get a better insight from the assistant coach. I don't know. It seems to just sort of be, as many times as you get actual insight, you get generic sports answers to leading questions.
All right. Okay, agree to disagree on that one.
All right.
Let's talk about Terrence Ross a little bit. He's been in and out of the lineup, mostly out. But today he was getting some fourth quarter burn. Let's start with the good news first. He's driving the ball more.
Yes.
He is. He's making a legitimate effort to not just spot up and actually take a step in and attack the rim even on a couple of occasions.
Attack the rim more. He's shooting well when he pulls up too.
Yeah. The bad news is that he can't finish. And right now, watching the Spurs game, when he was in there in the fourth quarter, I was just like, man, is there any reason he should get a single minute ahead of James Johnson if the game is even remotely on the line?
I don't think he's taking minutes away from James Johnson. It's certainly not the way they rotated through the lineup tonight. But as far as talking about with the starters, then it does seem in the last two games really hard to make that justification. I think that we're going to have to wait and see that develop. He's only just starting to sort of rush towards the rim and drive the ball. And if it was something that he suddenly started doing and just dominating when he was doing it, then it would have probably already been something that he was doing. I think that one of the reasons why he was probably really hesitant to do it is because his game isn't finishing and going hard and aggressive. And I think not only is he going to have to learn to push himself to try to do that, but it's going to take him a while to get comfortable enough to finish that shot in traffic and through contact. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't expect to see great results immediately, but if he keeps working on it and keeps getting himself to do it, then we might see things like him getting to the free throw line more, or him starting to finish a little bit more, or him, being able to find someone. You hope that skill develops as he gives more and more effort towards it, but I wouldn't expect great things immediately.
Yeah, step in the right direction at least, right? You're almost thinking that he's like a year and a half late in attempting to do what he's finally starting to do. And if he maybe keeps this up over the next, say, 20 games, by game 21, you might actually see some results. And so far, it's just about maybe just developing the process and not worrying about the results so much and just keep driving, keep pulling up rather than just gravitate away from the hoop.
Yeah, as long as he can shoot 40% from three and he's as athletic as he is, he's going to keep getting the chance to work on that because guys are going to be really challenging on that shot and trying to drive him off the line. So it's going to be there. He's going to have a chance to work on it. We just have to hope he improves.
Did you notice him and Belinelli guard each other in that third quarter? I think it was third quarter, early fourth.
Were they guarding each other?
Well, I know Ross was guarding Belinelli.
Okay.
Yeah, and
was Ross guarding Belinelli?
Yeah, he was, and Belinelli just ate him up. Not in one-on-one sense, but just playing off of a big man, give and go, backdoor cuts. Just you could tell that Belinelli's game had evolved so much from the time he was with the Raptors, and now he's with the Spurs. Like there's a whole level of intelligence in his game, and maybe that's just part of playing in the Spurs system, obviously. But and Ross was just a step slow there, and you're just wondering like that's probably the product of coaching.
It's a product of coaching. Belinelli's been quietly getting a lot better for a few years. For Chicago, he carried a major part of their offense when Derrick Rose was out a couple of years. Season before last, and was it Milwaukee he played before that? He played a big role for them, I think, when they were gunning for the 8th seed. Could be wrong, but yeah, that's what he does. He's really good at it. And Terrence Ross, someone needs to sit him down in front of a video of Tony Allen running through screens for an hour and a half and just get him to watch that on every flight, because for a guy as slender and slight and thin and as quick as Terrence Ross is, he should actually have a leg up on most guys trying to follow guys through screens and running around on defense. And he just gets lost time and time again. Like Belinelli is not getting wide open because he's just that much more athletic than Terrence Ross. That is not the case.
Yeah. Moving on from Ross, we got to give Dwane Casey some credit. He has made a tactical shift, a bit of a tactical shift. The team still blows leads going into the fourth, like even against San Antonio, they're up 8 and they promptly blew it. But he's making an adjustment where he's putting more of the starters in at the start of the fourth, and it's not a full bench lineup. Maybe just like we talked about Ross, the process being correct finally, maybe the same thing needs to happen here. So continue doing this. I like this idea of putting at least one starter. I think it was Lowry against the Clippers to start the fourth. Like keep that guy in there so that you maintain some sort of quality on offense and don't just give up leads.
Yeah, that's a big part. And I think tonight he also rotated. With a slight exception, it seems like he always tried to have either Amir Johnson or Valanciunas playing center at any given time. He didn't want to try and give minutes to Hansbrough at center or try to, force Patterson down low. He left Valanciunas out there for a little while longer than he normally would, and he moved James Johnson down to the power forward spot for a while. And having a guy who is that much more comfortable and that much bigger playing center really made a big difference on defense, especially with those bench units. When the problem with the bench units is they can score in a hurry, but if Lou Williams is taking a lot of shots and not hitting them, then you've got 2, sometimes 3 guys in the wing who are not defensive pluses. And if you can't bail them out inside, then you're going to give up points as quickly as you can sometimes score them. So the Raptors are, on the season, they're outscoring opponents by about 3 points per third quarter, which is, I think, top 3 in the league. But in fourth quarter margin, where last year they were so incredible in the fourth quarter, they're only outscoring opponents by 0.2 points per fourth quarter right now. So it's pretty much a draw for them once you get to the fourth. And those first 2 or 3 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Just the more credit to Casey. The one sub he made late in the game was bringing Patterson in and taking Vasquez out, and then he put Patterson on Leonard. And immediately the impact was there because Leonard had an open 3 on the corner, and Patterson did a fantastic job of just closing out and contesting that shot, and he airballed it. And that in a tight game like this, that's the game right there. If that's Vasquez, that rotation is not made, and that's probably a 3. But Patterson makes that rotation, and the Raptors win the game. So the margin of error is so small, and these substitutions matter so much. People always tell me how does it matter? If you guys go on and on about he should have put this in or that in. They're all NBA players, and no, everything matters. Vasquez in that situation, the game is lost. Patterson in that situation, we have a chance to win it.
Well, look, that game was 2 baskets is what decided the game tonight. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that 2 points count for the same amount no matter when you score them in the game. So little things like that make a point here, a basket there, an extra possession here. Those come that's what determines whether or not it's a 2-point game at the end of the game. So yeah, they all matter.
So before we end the segment, we got to talk about DeMar DeRozan. When I tune into a Raptor game these days, my main reason for tuning in these days is watching DeMar DeRozan handle the ball because it has been a thing of beauty. I think he has become the point forward for the team of late. He continues his poor shooting, 4 for 14 tonight. Against the Clippers, he was 6 for 16. But against the Clippers, he had 8 assists. And against San Antonio, he had 4 assists, a couple of them big ones. But a lot more ball handling, a lot more composure. You just see him, again, let's continue with this theme of maybe the results aren't there, but the process is right. And him handling the ball isn't resulting in great offense from a points perspective, from a shooting perspective, but maybe it's the right thing to do of having him handle the ball, survey the floor, and the results will come later. And the one point I do want to make about his shooting is that Butch Carter pointed this out on Twitter, is that he's having trouble right now, he observed, pushing off his injured leg, and that's probably one of the reasons why he's shooting so poorly. And the example that Coach Carter gave was even when he has a chance to dunk, he tries to lay it in and not exert too much pressure on that leg.
I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. I think that shot selection is also playing a role. DeMar is pulling up for a lot of long twos that have had slowly worked their way out of his game for the most part. He turned those into backing guys down and then fading from one of the sides where he's more comfortable. And right now he seems to just be pulling up early in the shot clock from a shot 2 feet inside the 3-point line with a guy sometimes right on him. And I think that's leading to why his numbers are low. To go to what you're talking about, 4 years ago, I was lighting my hair on fire at the notion of DeMar DeRozan being the quote-unquote franchise player for this team. And since then, every year his game has gotten consistently better. You and I were at a playoff game a year ago where they were going possession for possession. And I think twice in a row, I called it, this is going to be DeMar trying to dribble inside and bouncing the ball off of his foot, and it happening. And the work that he put in the summer purely on his ball handling and really trying to improve that has completely changed the way he looks on the floor, the way he's able to find teammates on the floor, and just like you said, just looking great moving around with the ball. It's really impressive how much his game has constantly improved.
Yeah. And ball handling should be qualified because most people equate ball handling with the ability to just flash and dash, go left or right whenever you want. But I think the improvement in his ball handling is that he's able to handle the ball and look up. and survey the floor. Yeah. That's it. 100%. He hasn't been able to, like, he's not a Chris Paul type crossover guy. He doesn't have a great crossover, but what he's able to do now is able to dribble the ball, have control of it, but at the same time look up and see what's happening on the floor. Last year, that wasn't happening.
I think that's why you've seen him go from 1.6 assists a game, which I think was around where his career average was, to what he's putting up now, which is a number I wish I had in front of me, but it's much better.
All right, man, we'll look that number up and talk about that number in part 3. Welcome back to part 3 of Raptors Weekly, where Andrew will tell us what DeMar DeRozan is averaging in terms of assists this year.
He's averaging 3.3 a game right now, but those numbers have been a lot better since he came back from injury.
Yeah. And a little bit more on DeMar DeRozan. We didn't talk about his free throws. 12 for 13 against the Clippers and 10 for 12 against San Antonio. And this is being guarded by some pretty good defenders.
Yeah, he's getting back to the line, and that's where his real value is.
I think it's more his first step. I think when guys like DeMar Carroll or whoever crowded him at the start of the season, they pushed him to the 3-point line. He kind of maybe shied away and passed the ball off right now. But I think now he's got more confidence in his dribbles, where he's able to take that first step and catch the defender by surprise, because they're expecting him to kind of shy away maybe, but this time he surprises them and they trip him or they bump him and he's happy to get the free throw line. So I think it's a confidence measure more than anything.
Yeah, I think you'd be right.
Let's talk about the Ciroc height of celebration. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm all about that Ciroc lifestyle, Zarar.
Tell the listener what the Ciroc lifestyle is.
Ciroc lifestyle is a way of being. It's a medium to high-end vodka, depending on how you feel about it. And we've now reached the extent of my knowledge about Ciroc and the Ciroc lifestyle.
And the Ciroc height of celebration, which is one of the commercials that the Raptors play. I find it odd that whenever they do the Ciroc height of celebration, they have to play like an old clip of an occasion worth celebrating. Yeah. And usually it's like a clip, it's like a January clip of like Reggie Slater, scoring 2 points in a 78-75 game, which the Raptors ended up winning on course to a 20-win season.
Yeah, Chuck Swirsky is just yelling the name Mo Pete over and over and over.
So I don't know if you noticed, Andrew, Dwane Casey had something to say about the Raptors' win against the Chicago Bulls from 1996. I didn't know Dwane Casey was a Raptor fan back then.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of that, is like he did not watch that game. Like, Dwane, I know you didn't watch that game. That's fine. Like, why would you have watched that game? Yeah. Like, I'm positive that someone had to show him like a clip of that game 15 minutes before they taped the interview that he clearly didn't care enough about to even take his hat off for.
Oh, yeah, Dwane Casey. I think it refers to the team as us, and at the time I think he was maybe coaching in college.
I'm pretty sure he's reading off a teleprompter. Look, it's not his fault. Like, why do you have him doing that interview? Like, is Zon Tabak busy? Like, you couldn't get anyone that was on the floor that day. Like, Tracy Murray can't do an interview for us?
Mm-hmm. Well, it wouldn't really matter. I mean, Dwane Casey is the head coach right now, so I guess they went for some oomph, and it ended up looking a little silly. But hey, Dwane Casey, he's had a good week, man. He's made some good substitutions, so let's not batter him too much.
No. Love that old man suit game, Dwane. Keep it up.
Let's talk about the schedule, and we only have one game to preview because it's the All-Star break. So we play Washington next on Wednesday, February 11th. This is a team that we beat in Washington last time we played them. This time it's at home. Paul Pierce at the ACC. Always good times. Washington is what? I should probably look this up.
They lost 6 in a row recently.
They've lost. They've lost some to some bad teams as well. Right now they stand 4th in the conference. Chicago has overtaken them, or they're actually tied on record. What do you make of this one?
I actually quite like the way the Raptors match up against the Wizards. It usually forces Casey to play Valanciunas a lot of minutes, and he gets looks, and he's played really well against Gortat. The Wizards don't really play small ball at all, which has sort of been something that's flummoxed the way our team has played. They don't really move the ball around rapid quickly. They don't break us down in the same way that we saw the Spurs breaking us down, and Atlanta is down, and Phoenix is down, and those kinds of teams that our defense really struggles against. So we match up well. and they're a good team, so we stay engaged. And I'm comfortable with this game, and I like the idea of the Raptors matching up against them in the playoffs. What about you?
Yeah, this is one of those teams that people always pick over us because they have Nene and Gortat, and we're kind of thin at the center position, including Jalen Rose. Last time we beat them in Washington, picked the Wizard again. He said he'd take them over over the Raptors in a playoff series. And I was of that school of thought before, but having watched them play, even though they have two on paper really good big men, they don't utilize them as much as they probably should against the Raptors because they're still very John Wall centric, and nothing wrong with that. But they like the advantages they supposedly have in the paint, they're not a team that actually leverages that when they play the Raptors. So it becomes not even an advantage; it just becomes a wash.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really a post-up team either. Like, Nene likes to shoot a little bit and play a little away from the basket. Gortat really likes to pick and roll. They don't punish you. Like, they're huge. Like, Gortat and Nene are both really large, strong men, but they just don't seem to punish teams low at all.
Yeah. It's almost a waste.
Yeah.
So, the win here?
I think it's a win here. I'm going to be at this game. I'm going to be excited. I'm really happy to watch John Wall run. And, like I said, I really like the matchup. I think that Washington gets a lot of credit because of the name brands that they have playing on that team, and I don't think they're a better team than the Raptors.
Yeah, John Wall is one of my favorite players to watch live. He's
so good this year.
Yeah, and he's just amazing to watch. I don't think there's a faster guy in the league with the ball in his hands end to end. Can you think of one?
He looks like he's got the Super Mario star in transition every single time.
Yeah. And after that, it's the All-Star break where the Raptors have Kyle Lowry participating not in just the All-Star game, but also in the skills competition. Do you
watch the skills competition, the three-point challenge, the shooting stars, the dunk contest? Are you into that?
I watch the three-point contest, which is always entertaining. I think that should probably be the headline competition on the night. I think that should be the last one.
How much is this year? Yeah.
Yeah. And the rookie sophomore game I used to watch, those are fairly interesting, but the least interesting event there is probably the skills challenge.
Yeah, the skills challenge and the shooting stars are both borderline unwatchable.
The skills challenge, it's not even a challenge, man. You're just making a bounce pass through a large hole, which even I could make.
Yeah, it's just, these guys are just sort of running through doing what looks like to them are very routine things, and it comes down to which one of them didn't mess up a layup or a small jumper or something like that. Like they don't seem to really care, and I don't feel like I care at all watching at home. It just makes me realize that I'm bored and this is what I'm doing on a Friday night, and that makes me sad.
It's like a hurdle you got to get to watch the 3-point shootout. Yeah. And you could make this interesting, man. You could have Dwight Howard defending the rim when you have the layup. You could have maybe somebody actually try to steal the pass as you're making it. I don't know. Do something where it's actually a challenge and not just routine business.
I like where you're going with this.
Yeah. Or just cancel the event. That works too.
Sure.
Yeah. Replace it with a 2-on-2 tournament. Lowry DeRozan versus Wall and Beal.
You know what? Like, how
I'd pay to watch that.
Just to watch, like set up like a King's Court, like 1-on-1. Winners outs to 3 and just see who can stay on there for the longest, who can climb that, like a Royal Rumble type thing. Yeah. Everyone would watch that.
Well, why do you think it's gonna happen at some point or no?
No way. I think that
injury concerns.
I think teams will say injury concerns, but ultimately what it comes down to is that no one wants to look like a chump on TV. No one wants to go out there and lose to Kevin Durant in 1-on-1.
Yeah, true. Unfortunately, it's never going to happen because there's some potential, man. You got all these great players in the same building over a weekend. You could pull off all kinds of shit, man. And what we got to settle for is the skills competition.
Do you remember, which is it, NBA Live, like 99 or something? One of those games. The most brilliant thing I remember a basketball game doing outside of NBA Jam was they had this mode where you could unlock where you would play against Michael Jordan in 1-on-1 on just like a street court. And that was just a little mode in the game.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I do remember that. Even though I'm not a big fan of basketball games, video games.
No, I don't play them, but I remember that was something that got me to play that game.
I preferred NBA Jam where the dunks were, you went about 30 feet over the rim and then slammed it from the top. You remember that one?
Fantastic game. Yeah. Yep. And there were no fouls.
No, it's a street, man.
Yep. If you got on fire, you were allowed to goaltend.
Yeah.
It's great.
All right, great stuff. All-Star game, Lowry is starting. MVP chances of winning. What do you think?
Chances of winning the All-Star Game MVP?
Yeah.
1%.
Will he take a charge in the All-Star game?
I think he'll try.
Hmm?
I don't think he's going to get the whistle. I'm really looking forward to like Kyle Lowry's stink face like that.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't do a stink face. He's more like the "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?" the face. I think we're going to get one of those when he doesn't get a charge foul in the All-Star game.
Will he pick up a technical in the All-Star game?
Can you get a technical in the All-Star game?
It's a basketball game. Why not?
I don't know. I want to. Some listener look this up because I have no interest in doing the research. Find out whether or not anyone has ever gotten a technical foul in an All-Star game. I feel like Kevin Garnett has been to like 13 All-Star games. If he can't do it, it's not possible.
And Rasheed Wallace been to a couple too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Andrew. I think that does it.
All right. That's a week, Zarar.
That's it. It's a nice week. 2-2. Started off like shit, but ended with the wins against the Clippers and San Antonio. That's I'd call it progress.
Yeah, life lesson here. If you have something that you're doing, doesn't matter whether or not you stink up the first half of it. As long as you finish strong, everyone's okay with it.
Yeah. 8 out of 10 strong. Not strong enough for me, man.
All right.
All right, then.